Hi, so we're going to be working on a car today. We're going to be working on this, my 2008 Toyota Corolla CE. This thing is about as base as it can get. It is a manual transmission, crank windows, no power locks. I mean, this thing is base, which I love that because half of this stuff won't break on it then. We're going to be working on this buddy today. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's not going to be fun. Yeah, the simple fix that I thought was going to be a simple fix is definitely not going to be a simple fix at all, because we've got to get into, I'm going to try not to block my light here. We got to get into this right here. That is the intake manifold. We're going to be taking that off, and to do so, see all these like air hoses and the throttle and all that type of stuff. Yeah, we've got to take a lot of that stuff off, and clamp them off and get them all off of there. And we're doing all of that just to take off a gasket, because there's a gasket on the inside of this that is worn, and it's making my engine run lean. It's ruining my gas mileage. It's not ruining it that bad, but it's ruining it enough, and it's making the engine run a little harder, and I need this car to last for a long time, and the part's like $2, so I'd much rather do that than have a shop charge me for all of that. Ooh, that's a little warm. Hello. But yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a pain. Basically, we've got to take most all of this stuff off to get to that. Yeah, we got to mess with the electrical wiring harness and take a bunch of air hoses off, and then I've seen a couple people do this, and they take the whole thing off of it. I don't know if I'm gonna do that or not. Like they take the air. They take air off. There's the throttle right there. They take the whole throttle off. They take a bunch of stuff off. I don't know if I'm gonna do all that. I'm gonna take just enough off to be able to get to the gasket and replace it. And yeah, we're gonna see how this happens. It's a disclaimer. I'm not a professional at all. I know most of what I know from watching YouTube videos. So don't take this as advice on how to do this. This is kind of me just figuring things out along with you, and hopefully you have some fun with it too. As this is an older car, we're gonna be doing a little bit of a paint fix too. You can see some rust issues there. I've got that on both sides of this thing, and so because this thing is functional and not fashionable, we're going to be taking some wire brushes to that. Don't freak out while this engine is cooling off, because I just ran it, and I don't really want to touch a bunch of hot parts. We're going to be working on that paint fix and getting that all brushed off. So yeah, should be fun. So how we're going to do this a little bit too, and I'll kind of go through the steps, is we got some wax and tar remover. We're going to take that and just kind of wipe that on, get some of the top coat sediments off of the paint down here. We're going to take a wire brush to it and get that down to bare metal. And then I've got a primer, I've got paint, and I've got clear coat. And they're just touch-up level stuff. We're not like doing a bunch of other stuff. I recommend wearing a mask when you're doing this, because it's got some rust particles and you don't really want to inhale that. But you can see how kind of bad this is getting on the underside of the vehicle here. I'd really rather not have that rust through. So yep, so the plan is to wax and tar remove that to get all the top coat sediments off and all that crap. We're going to take a wire brush to get that down to the bare metal and take the rust off, and just going to burn that right off. Then we're going, then we're going to primer, let that dry, primer again, let that dry, probably primer again, let that dry. Probably do two or three coats of touch-up paint, and then 2 or 3 coats of clear coat on top of that. We're not attempting to make this look good. We're just making it so that this rust isn't as much of a problem. So that's what she looks like when it's down to the bare metal. Eventually I might have to patch those holes up too. That's what rust does. And obviously I've made some mistakes too. Normally you're supposed to, like, you know, kind of tape all that off, but I really don't care. I'm not doing this because it looks nice. I'm doing this because I want that rust to go away. A little bit of a rust bubble right there too. I'd fix that eventually too. But yeah, he went down to the bare metal there. All right, so a little update on how we're doing here. We got some of these bolts out here. So he's a little shaky now. We got the wiring harness taken up. Trying to get an answer back from a buddy of mine. This one wasn't pressurized, and this one wasn't pressurized. But to be able to get this out, I've got a bolt right, kind of hard to see, but there's a bolt down. Yeah, you can kind of see it's right there, behind that hose there. And I'm trying to see if this hose here, and that hose there are pressurized. I'm trying to get an answer back from a buddy on that. If they are pressurized, then I need to clamp them off before I take them off. Otherwise, I'll just be spraying stuff everywhere. From what my research has done, there's also some stuff back behind here. I think that plug back there too that I'll have to work around. A lot of people take the whole thing right off. I'm just trying to take it off enough to where I can get to the actual gasket. Once I can get to the gasket, as long as I can get the gasket off and get the new gasket on, I don't need to take the whole stupid thing out. I just need to be able to get the gasket replaced. But yeah, first thing I did was I took this hose off here and unclamped this from here. And once I get an answer back on whether these are pressurized or not, whether I need to clamp them off or not, I'll take these hoses out and probably take a picture of them and label them, just so I know exactly what order they go back in too. These two big ones are pretty obvious as to where they go, but these not so much. So we will work on that next. On this side, we just got our first coat on. You can see how it's kind of fadey a little bit. First coat of paint on. Pretty light coat for the first coat. We're not doing much here. And we'll let that dry. We'll do another light coat and then another medium coat. And once that's all dry, we'll put some clear coat on it as well, and hopefully get that rolling. So, small update. That's where we got it right now. So, you can kind of see how dirty this surface is too. It is real filthy. Look inside there. We're not cleaning that out at all. Well, those are your push rods and everything. So, what we're working on replacing right now is that gasket right there, and I should be able to reach this enough to get the new one in there now. What I did to be able to get it like this, because a lot of people, if you know cars, are going to be looking at me like, how the absolute hell did you do this? So all I did was I watched this on a video. You can take these posts out right here, and I took this one out so then I can bend this up. I've only bent it far enough. I'm not really like crinking over any of the hoses here or anything like that. But I only bent it up enough to where I can get to the gasket and get that gasket off. Clean the surface up a little bit, and then put that new gasket back on there. So that's what we're going to be working on next. So this is why, if you do your own oil changes, you make sure all of the oil and junk gets into the actual oil reserve and not anywhere else. All that burnt stuff on there, that's oil that is leaked down from when you miss on here. All that black stuff, it's all oil that got burnt on there from that engine. Oops, there we go. That engine being hot, that burning that all on there. Thing I'm working on replacing is what used to be in right here. That little guy right, there's a gasket that goes in those holes right there, and that was worn out. That was letting all that gas in there, and yeah, all that gunk right there. You know, the black stuff on the inside, that's just normal. That's normal wear and tear, but yeah, fun stuff. So, new gasket's in. Might be able to tell a bit of a difference in it now. See, this one's raised up here. It's not as flat as the other one was. So, and it's not installed incorrectly either, don't worry. But the other one was, it was flat right onto here. I mean, it was worn down into it. And what this will do is this edge here will kind of sink right down into where we need to go, and actually create a nice seal rather than what it was doing. Yeah, we got that cleaned up fairly nicely. It's not as beautiful as I'd love it to be, but got that up fairly nicely. We're gonna put this guy back on, get probably a third coat of paint on our side, on our side of our car too, and then work on getting that post right there, get that post back in there, and start putting this baby back together. Well, that's not good. Okay, I'm gonna do this quickly because I don't have much space left on my phone. I'll go through kind of what I did to do this. So this hose and this hose I took off. These hoses here are pressurized, so I didn't want to take those off. So I undid this bolt here, one right there, that bolt there, and then there's another one here. The gold ones here hold this on, so we can just flip those up, and then take on the top one out of these two back here. Take the top one, don't take the bottom one out. There's this little spacer thing here that needs to stay on there, and that bottom one holds that on there. And then there's that bolt down there, right on the black, that one right there. That'll take all that off. I then took off this post that right under the gold thing right now. It's kind of hard to see, but that post, I took that right off with a little, I think like a 5mm. Took that straight off, bent this thing back, took it off, and then did that in the opposite order. I did that with these. I like to put a couple of Ugga-Duggas on it, but I mainly on the end with the 12mm. But I mainly used a 10mm and a 12mm. I used that screwdriver as well. I forgot. Before I did any of that, I detached this with the screwdriver right here, and took this hose, detached it from our throttle body here. The sandpaper was for the paint job, which we're pretty much done with now. Just putting some final coat of top coat on. Looks a lot better. Definitely doesn't look professional or anything like that, but looks a lot better. To do that, you'll need to get a little bit of sandpaper, probably a wire brush too. I usually find those are a lot easier. Get a wire brush, get some sandpaper, get an automotive primer, look up whatever model vehicle you have and color match. You can usually buy a little bit of color match stuff. So like my Corolla is a desert sand or something like that. So you can color match that as well. Auto primer, 3 coats, 2 light, 1 medium of paint, and then 3 coats of clear coat at the end. And we got the second coat of clear coat on right now. We're just waiting for that to dry so we can put the third coat on. I'm going to put the battery back in this thing and fire it up and see if it runs properly. If it doesn't, I'm going to be very mad and here for a long time. If it does, then job well done. Yay!